Imagine having everything you ever dreamed of: wealth, power, and influence, yet lying awake at night with a gnawing question that money could never answer. Does anyone truly love me for me? That was the life of Ethan Hale, a 32-year-old self-made millionaire. From the outside, his world looked flawless. He lived in a sprawling mansion overlooking the ocean, drove cars that turned heads, and traveled the globe at will. But Ethan carried a wound in his heart, carved from years of betrayal and shallow relationships. Every time he thought he had found love, he discovered it was only his bank account being cherished, not the man behind it. And then came Cassandra. She was stunning, sophisticated, and seemed to adore Ethan. For the first time in years, he believed he had found someone who truly cared. But as their relationship deepened, so did Ethan's doubts. Was she with him for his soul, or for the endless luxury he provided? One night, staring out across the moonlit waves from his balcony, an idea struck him. It was bold, it was risky, it was foolish perhaps, but he needed to know. He would stage an accident. He would pretend to be paralyzed from the waist down, confined to a wheelchair, stripped of the glamorous life he had flaunted. Then, and only then, would Cassandra's true heart be revealed. The plan was set in motion. Ethan told Cassandra that during a charity trip, he had suffered a terrible fall. Doctors had informed him that his legs might never recover. He played his role perfectly. Slouched in the wheelchair, voice tinged with despair, his once proud demeanor clouded in sorrow. At first, Cassandra seemed supportive. She kissed his cheek, whispered words of comfort, and promised to stay by his side. But as the days stretched into weeks, her mask began to slip. The warmth in her eyes faded. Her visits grew shorter, her excuses longer. Soon she was gone for hours, then days, until one morning Ethan overheard her on the phone, her voice sharp and annoyed.
"I can't keep living like this."
"He's useless now. What's the point of staying if he can't even provide?" Ethan's chest tightened as if pierced by knives. His worst fears were confirmed. Cassandra hadn't loved him. She had loved the lifestyle. But in his darkest hour, light appeared from an unexpected corner. Her name was Maria. She had been working in Ethan's mansion as a housemaid for barely 3 months before the accident. She was quiet, humble, and often overlooked. But as Cassandra drifted away, Maria quietly stepped forward. She brought Ethan meals with gentle care, not just placing them in front of him but asking softly, "Do you feel hungry yet? Should I make something else you'd like?" She tidied his room with patience, speaking to him as though he were more than a broken man in a chair. One evening, when Ethan's chest was tight with despair, Maria found him staring at the floor, tears threatening to fall. "Mr. Hale," she said softly, "I know you feel like life has ended. But you still have so much. Your mind, your kindness, your strength. You are not less of a man because of this chair." Her words pierced through the storm of doubt. For the first time since the ruse began, Ethan felt seen. As weeks turned to months, Cassandra appeared less and less. Maria became Ethan's steady companion. They laughed together over little things, her stories about her younger brothers, his sarcastic remarks about how useless he felt trying to open a jar. Slowly, Ethan found joy creeping back into his days. But with joy came guilt. Maria was growing close to him without knowing the truth. Ethan feared that when his deception was revealed, she too would leave. The breaking point came when Cassandra stormed into the mansion one evening, demanding access to Ethan's accounts. "I've given you the best years of my life," she snapped. "You owe me." Maria stood nearby, her eyes blazing. For the first time, Ethan saw her fierce spirit. She stepped forward, shielding him. "He owes you nothing. Love is not a transaction." Cassandra sneered. "You're just the help. Stay out of this." But Ethan's voice, strong and steady, cut through the room. "No, Cassandra. She's more than that. She's the only one who's been real with me." Cassandra stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Ethan sat in silence, heart pounding, realizing the truth. The test had been worth it, because it revealed a treasure he hadn't expected. That night, Ethan could no longer keep the lie. He wheeled himself into the living room where Maria sat reading. His hands trembled as he spoke. "Maria, there's something I must confess." He explained everything: the staged accident, the deception, the test for Cassandra's love. When he finished, shame burned in his chest. Maria was silent for a long moment. Finally, she whispered, "So you can walk?" Ethan stood slowly, guilt etched in his eyes. "Yes? And I understand if you hate me for lying. I had to know if anyone could love me without the money, without the image." Tears welled in Maria's eyes. Not of anger, but of pain. "Do you think love only comes when you trick people? Do you know how it feels to open your heart, only to wonder if everything was a lie?" Ethan's throat tightened. "I never wanted to hurt you. But Maria, somewhere along this journey, I stopped testing Cassandra. I started falling in love with you." Her gaze softened, but she turned away. "Love is built on trust, Ethan. If you want mine, you'll have to earn it." And so began his real journey, not of wealth, but of redemption. Ethan set aside his empire's demands to spend time proving his sincerity. He listened to Maria, helped her with chores, even joined her in volunteering at a community shelter where she spent her weekends. Slowly, day by day, her guarded heart began to heal. Months later, standing beneath the blooming cherry blossoms at the shelter garden, Ethan took Maria's hands. "I thought money could buy happiness. I thought lies could reveal truth. But you've taught me that love is only real when it's given freely, without conditions. Maria, will you give me the honor of walking this life with you? Not as a test, not as a game, but as the man I should have been all along?" Tears glistened in Maria's eyes. This time she did not turn away. "Yes, Ethan. But remember, love is not about proving. It's about living together." From that day forward, Ethan Hale was no longer defined by his wealth, nor by the scars of betrayal. He was defined by the quiet, steadfast love of a woman who had seen him at his weakest and still believed in his strength. And in Maria's arms, he found what all his millions had never given him: peace. Sometimes, the hardest lessons in life reveal the greatest treasures. Love is not found in riches or appearances, but in the quiet acts of kindness and truth that endure when everything else fades. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment below. Do you believe true love still exists in today's world? Share your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Be Kind Always for more inspiring stories that remind us of the power of compassion and truth.